Bienvenidos a otro episodio de Pase Ambidiestro. Welcome to another episode of Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, fútbol honestamente, soccer, fútbol honestly. Espero que mucha gente haya disfrutado de lo que hemos visto esta semana, a mitad de semana, que fue lo que es las ligas, lo que es la Premier League y los dos partidos que tuvimos de la Liga. Espero que muchos hayan disfrutado. En la Premier League vimos buenos partidos donde algunos de los grandes empatan, otros ganan por poco, aunque estaban bien tranquilos. Pero el día de hoy vamos a enfocarnos en lo que es la Premier y la Liga, porque lo que es la Serie A se está jugando lo que es la Copa Italiana. Y a la misma vez, en este episodio de hoy nos vamos a enfocar en lo que es la controversia de los boletos de la Copa del Mundo. Y a la misma vez nos vamos a enfocar en lo que es el crecimiento y algunas de las razones por qué el fútbol no crece en los Estados Unidos. Algo que puedo decir personalmente porque tuve la oportunidad de poder crecer en el sistema de lo que es el fútbol aquí en los Estados Unidos. Y a la misma vez, primero vamos a comenzar con lo que es la Premier. Después de la Premier vamos a pasar a lo que es la Liga y después vamos a pasar a la controversia de lo que es los boletos de la Copa del Mundo y finalmente vamos a tocar lo que es el tema del crecimiento del fútbol aquí en los Estados Unidos. Today we'll be focusing on the Premier League. We'll be focusing on the Premier League match day 14 and La Liga that they play match day 19, which is being played in advance due to the four teams that play these games. Two games, four teams. They are going to be playing the Spanish Super Cup, and that's why these two specific games from match day 19 have been played in advance this week in La Liga. And after the Premier League, that is in match day 14, and La Liga that played the match day 19th, we'll be focusing on the controversy that has been followed with the World Cup tickets, and at the same time, the USA soccer development, something that I can give a personal opinion in for having the chance, thankful to have the chance to grow and be part of the youth development that is here in the United States in the early 2010s. Something that I am very grateful for, and we will pinpoint some things of why soccer doesn't grow as much in the United States, and it has grown, yes, but it's not as big as it could and should be. But it's getting there. I don't doubt it will be getting to where it should. So the US national team can have more talent. The MLS can have more talent and more vast amounts of players where they can choose from. But firstly, we'll be focusing on the Premier League that is in match day 14. A Premier League that is on match day 14. This is the Premier League match day 14. In the first game, we have a Bournemouth against an Everton. A Everton that secured a crucial victory at the Vitality Stadium. David Moyes, short-handed side climbing to the top half of the Premier League table following their first ever win in the competition at Vitality Stadium. It looked like this game was going to head for a tie in the 78th minute. That's when the goal from Grealish was scored. A shot that Grealish took from 20 yards and a deflection that helped the ball go into the net. Bournemouth dipped in, form continues. They started really well at the beginning of the season, picking up wins, and gradually they have decay, and it's just terms of who you're playing, your team being in well structure and strategy being executed well. But Bournemouth has seen dips in their form, and is continuing to see those dips. Uh, and with Ariola's side suffering a fourth defeat in their last five Premier League matches, and it was enough to bring Bournemouth's seven-match unbeaten home streak in the Premier League to an end. Bournemouth, who's in the 14th place, and Everton, that is in the 10th place. Then after that, we have a Fulham against a Manchester City. A game that, for those that saw, it felt very, very. It felt like Manchester City was going to have this game. It felt as Manchester City was going to control this game, win this game, wrap it up, and take it home and secure the 3 points and just go about their business. But for those that watched, for those that saw this game, it was a roller coaster of emotions for the Man City fans, just as it was for their coach, Pep Guardiola. It was a 9-goal thriller, a 9-goal classic type of game. Man City survived a huge scare in the highest scoring match of the season. Erling Haaland started the scoring in minute 6 to score his 100th Premier League goal. Manchester City went up 3-0 by minute 44 with goal from range there and Foden, who scored an amazing shot from outside the box, placing it in the top corner. Again, I emphasize, Foden has this signature movement and shot, just inside the box or just outside the box. And it's a signature movement, a signature shot, a signature thing that Foden has. I will keep emphasizing, I will keep saying it, because it's one of those players that you know that if they grab the ball around that area in the 20 yards in front of the goal, inside the box, just right side outside the box, he's going to take a great shot. He's going to execute that, make sure that the goalkeeper either saves it or deflects it, or that ball ends up going in the net. But this game saw Manchester City go up 3-0 almost by the end of the first half. And Fulham answered by taking a goal back with Smith Rowe in minute 45 in complementary time of the first half, which was already 3-1. And in the second half, Man City extended their lead to 4-1 with Foden scoring a second goal. On that note, Foden scored a brace. And by minute 54, Man City were up 5-1. At that point, every Manchester City fan said, okay, we're good. We are handling this game. We secure this game. We back this game. We're good. But Manchester City were vulnerable. And Fulham make sure to expose that. A Manchester City that is a great team. It plays well, maintains the ball well, opens the field well. But one thing I will always emphasize since I've been watching football, soccer, is Pep Guardiola is a great coach. Cannot take that away from him. The titles, his numbers, they speak for themselves. But Pep has always had that small problem of his defense in any team he plays, any team he coaches. I mean, he always has that problem of his defense being a little bit vulnerable to a degree, if not really vulnerable. And in this game, we see it. We see the vulnerability in this defense. And Manchester City was winning 5-1. From that point on, Manchester City looked vulnerable after just getting 3 goals scored on. And they seemed like they secured the game, but it was not. Their game was not enough to secure it. The vulnerability showed. Man City lost their momentum, and they were so vulnerable. They were lucky not to tie this game, at least for Fulham. Fulham was unlucky, and Man City was lucky that Fulham did not tie. And Man City just has to work a bit better on their defense. This is something that Pep Guardiola has always had problems with. He's a great mentor on the aspect of opening the field, playing the right passes, quick touch, transitions, ball movement out of the right pace, right touch, the right place. But his defense is always vulnerable. I can only think that the players on the defense are so used to playing with the ball at their feet that they are not realizing that they are defenders. They have to be physical, they have to be fast, they have to react. These are just small things that, yeah, it can sound like criticism, but Manchester City is always great with the ball at their feet. Every single player is great with the ball at their feet, but they miss this small things that make them secure in the defense, and most of the time they're vulnerable. Most of the teams that Pep Guardiola has been in, he creates a great atmosphere when it comes to having the ball possession, but when it comes to defending, at times the quick counterattacks puts him at risk, puts his team at risk most of the time. And if he doesn't see it like that, then that's his way of looking at it. But offensively, is Pep has always had that in his teams, that they are great holding the ball, moving the ball, opening, creating plays, transitions, pace on the ball, the right movement on the ball. But in this game, you see these go 5-4 with Chelsea scoring a brace, and Man City lost their momentum to the point that they got lucky. A defender took out the ball right on the line, and they were lucky not to just walk away with 1 point. And something to emphasize in this game is Erling Haaland touches a huge milestone. This guy might have been dry for a couple games, but he's a goal scoring machine. He has 100 Premier League goals in 111 matches. He's the fastest player to reach 100 Premier League goals with less matches. 111 matches, 100 Premier League goals. He will become one of the best strikers in this Premier League. And how far will he get? Depends on how long he stays at Manchester City or in general in this Premier League. But Manchester City felt vulnerable. Even Pep Guardiola realized that they were vulnerable. He was a bit shooken, scared. Even he said in his press conference, he made a joke. But at the end, yes, when you walk away with a win, you're able to make a joke, laugh it off, and shake it off. But Man City walk away with a win that could have been easily be tied. And Fulham is in the 15th place. Man City is in 2nd place. Going on with this, we have a Newcastle against the Tottenham Hotspur that ended up 2-2. This was a late equalizer game for Christian Romero, who scored a brace with a 95th minute bicycle kick to get a point for Tottenham. All goals came late. The first goal came from a Brazilian star in minute 71, with Tottenham answering 6 minutes later in minute 78 with a great header from Romero. Then a penalty was awarded for Newcastle in the 86th minute. In the 95th minute, complementary time, Romero tied it with a bicycle kick. It was not the greatest bicycle kick, but it was a bicycle kick that ended up in the back of the net from a defender who scored a brace. So props to Romero, a player that has been a vital player for Tottenham. He wears the armband with pride. He wears that jersey with pride. And he is able to give Tottenham that 1 point. In Newcastle, that has been going on a great run. In Newcastle, that picked up their first away win. that gives them confidence against Everton. And Newcastle that has having great time at home every time they play at home, and in this case they tie. In this case, Newcastle ties at home. Tottenham Hotspur comes as a visitor and takes away a tie. Tottenham Hotspur that has been having a kind of inconsistent season. They find themselves sometimes in good rhythm. Sometimes they fail. They find themselves in not so great rhythm. But in this one, they walk away with a tie. And Spurs have been finding backlash from the fans with boos. Spurs have not scored first half going 5 Premier League games since winning 3-0 at Everton in October. And Newcastle is in 12th place and Tottenham is in the 11th place. These are two teams that are right next to each other on the table. Arsenal Brentford is the next game. Arsenal Brentford. And Arsenal that wins 2-0 at home. It's a professional win for Arsenal. Arsenal took the lead in the 11th minute with a great play coming from Madueke's feet to White, that found a reinvented Merino who scored the header. And Merino, who has stepped up for Arsenal. They miss some of their strikers. They're missing some of their strikers. Something that Merino has been doing for Spain is scoring a lot of goals. And I believe Arteta has been seeing that he can be a dynamic player, a versatile player that can give him something else apart from just being a midfielder. Or that's why I emphasize that he has reinvented himself. He has contributed for Spain, and Arteta has seen that this guy can contribute on goals. He's not only a midfielder, but he's a contributing midfielder with goals. And he has been doing this for Spain at the national level. He has been contributing with goals. And in this game, Rice came off after taking a knock, something that will concern Arteta because he's a pillar of that midfield. And Rice came out with a knock. The team came out with a couple subs, and Rice was one of the guys that had to go because he came out with a knock. And then for Brentford, Igor Thiago was dropped from the lineup for Brentford. A Brentford that only registered one shot on target. Not much offensive threat from Brentford, who lost this game. And Arsenal is in first place and is in first place and claims first place. And Brentford is in the 13th place. On to Brighton against Villa. A Brighton that loses to Villa 3-4, and Aston Villa that finds a win away. This was a thriller. Villa that fight back to secure high scoring away win and stay in the top three. A Brighton who went up in the 9th minute and were 2 up by the 27th minute with an own goal from Torres. Joaquin, who made his way back into this Villa side and secured to help with the brace. And Aston Villa that came back from 2-goal deficit in a game that had 4 goals in the first half. And Villa's manager, Emery, showed an emotion on the sideline. And Villa understood this emotion from their manager and stepped up in the game. Van Hex, who scored the early 9th minute goal and the late stunner to offer a glimmer of hope, but it was not enough. And a Brighton that is in 7th place and a Villa that is in the 3rd place. Then after that, we have a Burnley against a Crystal Palace. A Burnley that play at home and a Crystal Palace that came to visit that wins the game 1-0. A Palace that continued solid form with a narrow away win. Goalkeeper Martin Dubraka and Dean Henderson had to work both ends. They had to do their work. They had to do their job to keep this game at this point where only Crystal Palace was able to seek the final chance and score. And Burnley saw and had an opportunity, really close opportunity, but Richard the American was alert to clear the chance, and it's now 5 straight league defeats for Burnley. Oliver Glasner and his ideas, the wingbacks, have provided impact in many games. You have Munoz, who is a threatening wing. wing back, and he brings not only speed, but he brings physicality and he brings a versatile game to make a difference and create threats on the wings and overlaps. So this is a plus. This is great for Crystal Palace. A Crystal Palace that they lost to Manchester United on match day 13, but they take a win on this match day 14. And Burnley that is in 19th place and a Crystal Palace that is in the 5th place. Then after we have a Wolves against a Nottingham Forest. Another loss for Wolves. Forest pick up a vital 3 points to move clear of the relegation zone. Igor Jesus' first Premier League goal consigned Wolves Wanderers to yet another defeat. A late goal in the 72nd minute. Forest have become a far more well-rounded side since Dyke took over, and they now have 3 wins in their last 4 league matches. Wolves were much improved despite losing 1-0. And when they played Aston Villa a few days earlier, the new boss Edwards decided to stick with the same side for this for his third match in charge. Wolves failed to produce a shot on target throughout the match or more threat with the shots. Edwards, who must pick his side of the floor yet again. Something that Edwards has said is that he feels the frustration from the fans, but he knows the pressure is on the team, and he's not in the magnifying glass. And Wolves are in the 20th place in the relegation zone, and Nottingham Forest is in the 16th place. Then after that is a Leeds United against a Chelsea. For all of those that watch this game, for Chelsea fans, I understand Chelsea had just won against Barcelona. Barcelona that was not doing that great, but it's still Barcelona. You take pride when you take wins against Barcelona. But then a Chelsea that ties against an Arsenal with 10 men on the field. And then they come here and they get shocked by Leeds. A Chelsea that was the visiting side. A Leeds that was at home wins 3-1. This was a major upset. Leeds delivered a surprising and comprehensive defeat to the top 4 contender. Leeds United climbed out of the relegation zone with a morale-boosting 3-1 victory over Chelsea at Allen Road. Enzo Maresca's side slipped to 4th place, falling 9 points behind the leaders Arsenal. Vijol put Leeds ahead with a header in minute 6. Chelsea grew into the contest but struggled to generate an attacking threat during the first half and fell 2-0 behind in the 42nd minute. Pedro Neto came from off the bench, and he helped reduce the deficit, but was not enough. Leeds under pressure following a run of 4 straight defeats, they get a win. And Chelsea unbeaten run of 7 matches in all competitions came to an end following the underwhelming display. That shows that Caicedo is an indispensable player in the middle. You could tell that this guy not only plays well, but he holds some kind of structure to this Chelsea midfield. And with his absence, they feel that he's a very important piece in the midfield. And Enzo Fernandez was caught in possession on the edge of his own box, and he was punished by Tanaka's superb strike. And Cole Palmer, he also came off the bench, making his first appearance since September 20th. And however, the positive spell counted for nothing as Chelsea caused their own problem once more time. They had a great run. Chelsea had a great run, but for nothing, because this time they caused their own problem. A Leeds that is in the 17th place and a Chelsea that is in the 4th place. Going on, we have a Liverpool against a Sunderland. A Liverpool that points are dropped. A Liverpool Liverpool were held to a frustrating home draw by newly promoted side. Liverpool fell behind in this game in minute 67, goal from Sunderland by Talby. Liverpool fell back with Wirtz, though he had his first goal for Liverpool, but it turns out that they gave it as an own goal. Something that it takes your momentum, yes, it hits you, but his attempt, if we all look at it and you look at the video and repeat it and look at it from every angle you can, you could tell that this was going to be, it was a shot from Wirtz that it was clearly going wide. It was not going to be going to the back of the net if that player did not touch it. But the shot from Wirtz gets a deflection from Mukiele and ends up in the back of the net. Wirtz helped, but his momentum of a goal is taken away from him. And, you know, in the moment you don't think about it, but when you get on the field with everything that's going on, everything that's being talked about, the best thing to do is we tied, move on to the next one. Because since he's already facing a hard time and a lot of backlash, the best thing to do is just to move on and not even pay much mind, because it will get you deeper in the moment that you are going through and the struggle that you're going through facing in this new league. So for Wirtz, listen, you did what you had to do. You help your team move on to the next one. Maybe next game you can assist or score, and this is just a small bump for a better path. But not only that, Liverpool were really vulnerable in the stoppage time. Isidore then rounded Alisson in the dramatic stoppage time and in a counter attack, only for Chesa to hack his effort away in front of the vacant goal. And Liverpool do not see a defeat but go on another stale game. And they came from behind this one just to tie it. And Liverpool, that is in 9th place, and the Sunderland, that is in 7th place. By this time last year, Liverpool was still first and was going on a great run. Right now, they're in a 9th place. They can get into European football, but in this one, looks like Arsenal's going to be going. And only the top 4 teams will be competing for this, because Arsenal is starting to build gap. Arsenal is starting to build distance. So for those that are past the 5th place, even 4th place, if you don't stay steady and consistent, it's going to get really hard to catch on to Arsenal. That so far they are running. Sometimes they have small bumps that come down to a tie, but from there on, Arsenal keeps moving. They keep jogging at a nice pace, and it all depends on what the next game brings for Arsenal and what Manchester City can do to keep putting pressure on the Arsenal side. But again, a Liverpool that is in 9th place and a Sunderland that is in the 7th place. Then today we had the last game of this Premier League match day 14, that it came down to a Manchester United against a West Ham United that ended up in a draw. The first half was a tense affair with Manchester United dominating possession and creating the better chances. Though they lacked in clinical finishing, Joshua Zirkzee, he came close to seeing his shot clear of the line by former United defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The deadlock was broken just before the hour mark and by an unlikely scorer, Diego Dalot. West Ham, who had offered little in the attack, found a dramatic equalizer from a corner kick after a flick on by Jared Bowen. It was clear of the line, Nausari Mazuri, and the loose ball just dropped to midfield, Sanguto Magasa, and he needed that. And in this game, Bruno Fernandes was the influence. The captain was arguably the best player in the pitch, creating 5 chances, the most in a match. Defender Aiden Heaven in the back 3 due to he came in due to the injury from Matthias Delight. And at the same time, he was substituted at halftime after struggling and picking up an early yellow. and Lenny Yota replaced him. Um, Ruben Amorim expressed his anger and frustration at his team for once again surrendering a late lead, pointing to the lack of defensive focus on the corner kick. The draw halted momentum gain from the previous win against Crystal Palace, and Manchester United stays in the 8th place, and West Ham is in the 18th place in the relegation zone. That is it for the Premier League. A Premier League that pretty much stays the same. Only a few teams went up the ladder to climb into better spots. And a big team like Manchester City that saw a little moment of scaredness, but they walk away with the win. Arsenal stays resilient, stays consistent. And Manchester United that still doesn't get that momentum of securing games and looking steady. And Liverpool that picks a win on match day 13, but get a tie on this match day 14. And they are still have a lot of work to do if they want to play European football next year. And it's Chelsea that put pressure on Arsenal in match day 13, but now they get shocked and they lose against Leeds. And it showed that Caicedo is a very, very important man. And they need this guy because he's a really important person in the midfield. A Wolves that keeps finding losses and keep finding struggles. A Crystal Palace that went on to win by the minimum and they're in 5th place. And Aston Villa that came from a 2-0 deficit to win 4-3. Emery was emotional on the sideline for those that watched the game. And Watkins, who was not in this team at the beginning, he has made his way into it. And he's the guy who puts 2 for Villa to make sure that they walk away with a win. And Brentford doesn't have their scoring man. They did some changes to the lineup and they lose this one against Arsenal. Arsenal that is calmly playing, and Newcastle the ties at home. Newcastle has been having a great season at home. It's Tottenham Hotspur that hasn't been that secure, that consistent on the performances, but they walk away with a tie against Newcastle. And a Romero that this is his team. He's a captain. He's a meaningful person in the defense, and this time he is the hero to at least secure 1 point for Tottenham. And Everton that takes a win with the minimum in a stadium that they get their first win. A goal from Grealish that was deflected that ended up in the back of the net. That's all for the Premier League. Then after that, we have a La Liga that sought match day 19 being played ahead of time due to these 4 teams that play these 2 games playing in Spanish Super Cup, and the game was brought up ahead of time due to that reason because they had to travel and they had to dispute these games, and it's usually 2 games. So during the month of January, these 4 teams will be disputing these 2 games for the Super Cup, and then it's a final. So it's 1 game for each team, which is technically a semifinal, and then a final. So it's 3 games in total, 4 teams that play on a semifinal, and then the 2 winners of each game move on to the final. So that's why the La Liga sought match day 19 being played in the middle of this week. La Liga ha disputado lo que es la jornada 19 porque estos cuatro equipos que jugaron estos dos partidos van a estar en lo que es la Supercopa Española, una Supercopa Española que ve dos semifinales y después se jugará, los ganadores de esas semifinales se verán en una final. Estos cuatro equipos van a ser los que disputarán esta Supercopa de España y por eso se ha jugado esta jornada 19 en este mes de diciembre, una Supercopa de España que se jugará en lo que es en enero. Entonces por eso se han jugado esta fecha avanzadamente esta semana. Pero una jornada 19 que nos da dos partidos que son buenos, un Barcelona contra un Atlético de Madrid. Un Barcelona con un Atlético de Madrid, un Barcelona que afianza el liderato en un partidazo. Es un partido que el Barcelona crea más, es mucho más peligroso. Un Atlético que se adelantó con el gol de Alex Baena, un polémico por el posible fuera de juego, valido por el VAR, por el VAR. Una línea alta vuelve a dejar al Barcelona perjudicado, pero el Barcelona remonta con goles de Rafinha, Olmo y Ferran. Los 6 al minuto 96 Ferran. Un partido que los dos equipos tuvieron sus oportunidades, pero el Barcelona con más dinámica y peligro se llevó el partido. El Barcelona le hace falta un poco más de manejamiento de partido cuando van ganando para asegurar en los últimos minutos de poder llevarse el gane. Aquí el Barcelona, para esos que vieron el partido, el Barcelona estaba ganando 2-1 y en los últimos 10 minutos el Barcelona se vio un poco vulnerable. El Atlético le tomaba el balón y causaba peligro y también tenía tiros que hizo que Joan García trabajara y mantuviera ocupado para que este Atlético no pudiera empatar, pero un Barcelona que le hace falta ese poco control en los partidos para llevarse y el gane cuando está en un partido tan cerrado así, un partido que el adversario te puede hacer también, te puede causar peligro y también quitarte algunos puntos, pero un Barcelona que se lleva el gane, sufre un poco en algunos momentos y sufre más por perder el balón y en los contraataques en minutos del final del partido. Los del Cholo tuvieron, pero no fueron tan finos para poder llevarse algo de este partido. Y el Barcelona demostró pegada para superar a un rival directo. Y el Atlético que tenía una racha invicta, el Barcelona se la termina y se lleva este gane. Y un Lewandowski que se falló un penal en el minuto 37. Un Barcelona que está en el primer lugar y un Atlético que está en cuarto, pero no suma puntos esta jornada que se jugó adelantada. Después tenemos el Athletic Club contra un Real Madrid. Un Real Madrid que en esta jornada 19 que se jugó avanzada, un Real Madrid que recupera la confianza con un partido que sí ganaron más que tranquilos. Es, es una goleada hasta un nivel, una victoria contundente en San Mamés, con doblete de Kylian Mbappé y asistencia. El Madrid necesitaba una reacción tras sus recientes empates y después de perder el liderato y después de tanto que se estaba hablando que está el equipo con Xavi o no, tiene Xavi el soporte de los jugadores, están los jugadores con él, este es un equipo, qué es lo que está sucediendo, pero en este partido te das cuenta que el Madrid reacciona, eh, da confianza y juega bien. eh, y esta goleada le da un gran impulso y para esos que vieron el partido se dan cuenta que hubieron varios cánticos ofensivos contra Asensio y Vinicius por parte de la afición local. Un segundo gol para el Madrid que viene de jugar como equipo. Cerca de 6 jugadores, de 5 a 6 jugadores tocan el balón en el Madrid para que este gol termine asistido por Mbappe y gol de Camavinga. Pero un segundo gol que se notó ese fútbol que Xavi está tratando de implicar en este equipo. Un fútbol que es un fútbol de ritmo, de buen cambio de balón y, y a la misma vez de equipo. Y también tenemos a lo que es a Alexander Arnold, a Trent Alexander Arnold, que estamos viendo algo de este jugador que el Madrid le hace falta, es los cambios de balón de una banda a la otra. Él asiste a Mbappe para que Mbappe meta el primer gol de este partido. Pero a la misma vez vemos que a Trent le hace falta esa seguridad de ser defensa. Se le nota que ofensivamente es muy bueno. Es muy bueno. Cambia el balón, mete buenos balones, buen cambio de bandas, pero no es muy seguro defensivamente. Esa banda izquierda siempre sufre. Por ahí fue donde entraron algunas de las complicaciones que tuvo el Madrid contra el Athletic Bilbao. Pero un, un trend que ofensivamente, cambio de balón, viendo y teniendo visión, es muy bueno cuando trata de darte trata de dar lo que es balón y cambiar y ver el área abierta, de tratar de dar esa recepción, pero cuando se viene al defender es un poco vulnerable, no está encima del jugador, no es muy seguro. Y para esos que vieron este partido y han visto los otros partidos, es algo que yo le he notado a él. No le estamos quitando que es bueno, pero puede ser mucho más mejor defensivamente. Y es algo que Xavi puede ponerlo y sacarlo al lado y decir, vamos a enfocarnos en esto para que estemos bien anivelados. Pero en un partido que también Nico Williams no tuvo el mejor partido. Pero es un joven que tiene todo mucho por delante, sinceramente. Un Atleti que un Atleti que paraba al Madrid con fallas técnicas y fue de vez en cuando algunas faltas así, no tan feas, pero faltas técnicas. Y un Real Madrid que está en segundo detrás del Barcelona por un punto y un Atlético que está en octavo. Ahora vamos a enfocarnos en lo que es la controversia acerca de los boletos y los precios y la reventa de estos boletos. Now we're going to be focusing on the controversy over the ticket prices and the resale of the tickets for the World Cup here in the United States. The main points of contention include skyrocketing face value prices. Even the initial face value figures for the tickets are seen as dramatically higher than the past tournaments. One of the examples is that the cheapest ticket in the final have been reported to be over $2,000, and which is exponentially higher than the most expensive general admission final ticket in the previous World Cups. In Qatar, the most expensive ticket was approximately $1,600. So it's $1,600 in Qatar in 2022. This is a difference of $400, yes. But here we're seeing that the tickets are 2,000 or more. So here you can see that it's only a $400 difference. But if you want to be able to purchase a ticket in a decent area, prices might vary higher. And at the same time, the resale system in scalping, this is arguably the most controversial difference on capped resale prices. Unlike the past World Cups where the resale prices were typically capped at a face value for preventing price gouging, FIFA has lifted the resale restriction for this tournament, taking advantage of the unregulated market in the US and Canada where most matches will be held. This allows tickets to be relisted and on the official platform for tens of thousands of dollars. And FIFA has implemented a substantial commission structure, reportedly taking 15% from the seller and 15% from the buyer on every resale transaction. People criticize and accuse FIFA of essentially becoming a scalper themselves, profiting hugely from an inflated secondary market prices. A FIFA that is a non-profit. FIFA that claims that they are a non-profit. So you see these, and then you see that they taking 30% in total, 15 from the seller and 15% from the buyer. That's a 30% added up. So at the same time is the dynamic variable of pricing. FIFA implemented a system where ticket prices can fluctuate upward based on demand. A model common here in the United States. Is a really common model of business practice here in the United States and here in North America in general, where live events but highly controversial for a global tournament like the World Cup. I mean, for those that have gone to certain type of events here in the United States, depending on how demanding it is, they allow people to resell tickets. Sometimes a ticket at the beginning could be $60 and then it ends up being $5,000, $6,000, depending on how demanding the event is. And this is something that FIFA has allowed. It's a very controversial for the global tournament like the World Cup. And while FIFA has stated that they will not change prices every 5 minutes, this is still allows for significant price hikes in later sale phases. I mean, the cheapest ticket for 2026 match now costs more than the most expensive category 1 ticket of the same stage in 2022. So in Qatar, you had a ticket that the cheapest ticket, the lowest price, the approximate lowest price was $11 in Qatar. We're talking about a group stage game. It was $11. Here in the United States, a low price ticket, which is a group stage, $100. Okay, that's understandable. But then you have the cheapest opening match in Qatar, the lowest is $55. Here, the cheapest opening match ticket is $560. So first you go from a group stage ticket that is $11 in Qatar, $100 here in this current World Cup. So it's 9 times higher. $11 group stage in Qatar, $100 in group stage in the United States in this current World Cup. Then you have the opening match tickets, which is $55 in the World Cup in Qatar. And then for the United States is $560. We're talking about 10 times the amount that it was charged in Qatar in 2022 to the amount that is being charged here in the United States for this upcoming World Cup. And then the cheapest final ticket in Qatar was $206. The cheapest final ticket for this upcoming World Cup here in the United States is over $2,000. Nearly 10 times the increase. So for this group stage is 9 times, 10 times, give or take, 9 to 10 times more of an increase in the group stage from Qatar 2022 to this upcoming World Cup here in the US. Then for the opening match tickets is 10 times an increase from Qatar 2022 to the upcoming World Cup here in the US. And for the final in Qatar was $206. But for the United States upcoming World Cup, the cheapest ticket is over $2,000. Personally, I would like to go and be able to see some of these games. There's plenty of games. It's the first World Cup where a lot more games will be played. But in a realistic note, we know that not every game is going to be entertaining. A lot of people will go and support the nation, yes, but not a lot of people will be able to attend depending on what their nation is, on who their nation is. Not a lot of people will be able to attend depending on who their nation is. If you have a opening match after the group stage of a Germany, Uruguay, or a Netherlands, Brazil, not everyone, not even the people of those nations will be able to get these tickets. Not all of them will be able to purchase. This is just a really, really controversial topic because looking at it plain and bland, FIFA came just to do business. This is business strictly. It's understandable. But this is a sport that belongs to the fans. Without fans, without people liking and loving this sport, such thing would not be possible. The players want to represent their nation, yes. But the fans are the one who back up each of those players and the nation. Some peoples of those nations will not be able to purchase these tickets. Plain and bland, FIFA came to do business. They knew what the opportunity was when it came to the American market to do such thing. The economy is not the best. That's a whole different topic. Just know the economy is not the best. But when you see prices from the last World Cup to this World Cup, 10 times more than from the last World Cup, FIFA came strictly to do business. To grab their percentage and run after it. It's sad because this is a sport that belongs to the people, to the fans, and for all of those around. Personally, I thought I was going to be able to be one of those fans that was going to be able to watch at least 1 to 4 games, and more than anything a final, because there's no other atmosphere like a FIFA World Cup final. There's no other atmosphere. But this time I believe that to satisfy this as a fan, I will have to just watch one stage group game with the best teams. Because at the end of the day, yes, there's a lot of games, but not every game will be entertaining. Not every game will entertain. Football fans love their nations, support their nations in the World Cup. But football fans want to watch great football, great soccer. And with these prices, all of those that had the dream of being able to watch the game in such a stage will not be able to watch more than one game. At home, yes. In the stadium, maybe 1 or 2. And it's just a letdown by an association that calls themselves a non-profit when they're taking 30% profit in this one. The nations are the ones who are in charge of taking care of the stadiums, and the ones who are hosting, they are the nations that are in charge of hostings have to be the ones in charge of taking care of the stadiums and being able to provide the stadiums, the infrastructure. And FIFA, they just bring the tournament here and they market it and they use the medias. But in this sense, FIFA came strictly and they knew that they were coming strictly for business. Again, group stage tickets in Qatar were around $11. The cheapest one for a group stage ticket here in the US is $100. It's not bad. That is not bad yet. But when you see that the cheapest opening match ticket in Qatar is $55 compared to here in this upcoming World Cup in the United States, which is going to be 560 depending on the game, or even more, sometimes probably even reaching up to 1,000 or even more than that, because we're talking about right now in December. The World Cup doesn't come until June. And then on top of that, for the final, the cheapest ticket in Qatar in 2022 was $206. The cheapest ticket at the moment, because no team has been set to reach the final yet, is already at $2,000 or more. And FIFA also promised to keep certain areas of the field or of the stadium with affordable pricing. This is a call for all of those football fans. Just know that it's just sad all around. As a football fan, I only have been able to attend no more than 7 games, and thinking this was going to be the World Cup where I was going to be able to watch and enjoy the sport as a football fan, not supporting any nation, just as a football fan, seeing the quality of the game and everything. I thought I was going to be able to watch more than one game, but in reality, I guess a opening match will do it, and hopefully it's a good one. But this is really really hard to understand. But again, FIFA came to the US and the American continent to do business strictly. They came to do business strictly. 15% from the seller, 15% from the buyer. That's a total of 30% of the value that the ticket is being sold. Tickets being ranged from $100 to $2,000. So if you're good on numbers, do the math. They will make a couple million or more. Business strictly. FIFA knew what they were doing. They had to do better. This is a very controversial topic. A lot of football fans have been let down by this one, and it's just the truth. This is football truth, and as a football fan, it's really sad to be let down when you think that you will be able to see the most beautiful sport in the world at the biggest stage. You just realize that yes, you might be able to, but not in the sense that you thought. And for those fans that are coming from abroad to support a nation, it's going to be hard, even harder, because the economy is not the greatest in the United States at the moment. It's not the worst either, but it's not the greatest. Some people will have to turn their currency from whatever currency is in their nation to the dollar. For those that come from Europe, they're most likely to be okay. But for others coming from other continents, and if their currency doesn't hold the same value as the American dollar, then they will feel it. And it's an event that happens every 4 years, but with these prices being like this, and with FIFA lifting their restrictions, it just makes it really controversial. Why they lift the restrictions when it comes to the American market, but when they were in Qatar and in Russia, they didn't have such thing. They came strictly to do business. It's a very big letdown by FIFA, and it's a normal practice in the United States market when it comes to events that are in high demand. That's understandable. But FIFA, as a non-profit in a sport that is for the people, that there's no way of going about it if there's no fans, is really, really sad. Really, really sad. Can't explain it more simpler than this. Can't put in other more simpler words for everyone out there. And a lot of people have made their opinion known and their concerns on this World Cup and the prices, and it's just a total letdown because they came strictly for business. And FIFA, where will FIFA be without fans? FIFA is just an organization, but where will FIFA be without the fans? Without people showing up to these things to support their countries and to pay these fees to get into the stadium. We'll see where this goes. We'll see what FIFA answers, which a big organization that it looks more like a corporation that is doing business, even though they are a non-profit. They seem to be doing business really well. So we will see, and hopefully this is something that can be resolved, or at least for those that come out here and want to watch their nation, they are able to. And for those that are already here, are able to have the experience of watching good, great, entertaining games. And not only just to say I went to the World Cup, but to be able to watch some of the best nations at what they do best in the field. So it is a really, really controversial topic over the ticket prices and resale, but this is the world that we live in today. And for those that really want to go, they will have to do certain things to be able to purchase these tickets. And for those that had the intention to go to more than one game, then one game will have to do it with prices skyrocketing the way that they are at the moment. Moving on from the controversial ticket resale for the FIFA World Cup. Another topic to focus on, something that is very contradicting, and something that, yes, it has changed in the US, something that still needs to change a bit more so you can find more talent, is the US soccer development. The US soccer youth soccer development. Just know that in the United States is a pay-to-play model, which creates a really high cost of youth participation and a lack of a lack of structure, informal play opportunities compared to other sports like football and basketball. Another thing is soccer is not looked at in the United States as a American sport. So the view is different. The view changes. That might be an unpopular opinion, but personally, I was able to have the experience to play organized football at a youth level, competitive academy soccer, and it's just a very, very controversial topic and an unpopular opinion. And I was able to also see not only my experience, but other people I grew up with playing that went through the same, that went through all these camps and certain organized camps for the MLS, that people that I knew personally that had great talent, that if they were in other more developed places like Europe, they would have definitely gotten somewhere. It's an unpopular opinion. It's a controversial opinion. But personally, I can relate to this and I can speak from my personal point of view. In the US youth soccer development, just know that is a pay to play model and is an informal play opportunities compared to other sports like American football and basketball. The youth development and cost. Youth development and cost is a pay to play model. The US youth soccer system is expensive. Zlatan even emphasized this when he came here. Zlatan spoke about it. And maybe they didn't like him because he spoke about that. But it's just what the truth is in that sense. It's a really expensive system requiring families to pay thousands of dollars annually for clubs. Personally had the experience of paying up to $2,000-3,000. This was early 2010s, and this is annually every season that every starts. And there is travel, there is fees, which is a significant barrier into entry and participation. So apart from you paying for the season for the club, you have to travel. That's an extra fee, and there's other fees that come along with it. If you travel and you stay in a hotel, that's another fee. Not everything is included in the annual payment for the clubs. It's just player registration, uniform, bags, tracksuits. They don't give you cleats. They don't give you gloves. For goalkeepers, they don't give you shin guards. These are, yes, they're minor things, but these are things that you have to go out of the way and get. And on top of that, you have travel and you have other fees come along. So it's surrounded by constant payment of things. And you also have a lack of informal play, like in other countries, in a lot of Spanish countries, European countries. Um, in many of those other countries, you have where informal street and park soccer is common. Out here, you don't have that opportunity. Most of the time, if you see a group of teenagers or kids playing soccer in a park, in a soccer field more than anything, because yes, you can play in a park randomly, but you're not going to see a big others of people playing because you need a permit for everything. You need a permit to play in a soccer field because you have what it is liability, and this is a really hard thing to be able to do when you don't have um, an organization that is able to help you to get such permits. So the informal street or park soccer is not coming out here in the United States. And the US youth players are often limited to structure, paid practices and club games, limiting the development of technical skill and creativity. When you play in the street, you develop a different type of creativity. You develop these small things that help you on the field when you play. Yes, there's a lot of tactical things that help you, that make you become the player that you become when you play in a competitive league, in a structured team. But playing in the street, playing in the park, it gives you these small things that you're not able to pick in the structure and in the technical areas of football, soccer, when you play in academies. And focus on winning. The youth system can prioritize winning over player development. A contrast to how other countries develop elite talent from a young age by focusing on individual technical skills. There's other factors to this too. There's cultural factors, and there's a different perception of the sport. In the US, soccer is often viewed as just another sport, again, something that Pochettino has been trying to change. Something that Pochettino has been trying to change in the culture. Soccer is just another sport. It's not an American sport, so there's no pride. When you don't have pride in something, there's no drive. There's just a participation type of moment. There's no drive for the moment. There's no pride in it. So, where in areas in Europe, it is considered a major part of the national identity of the culture, and leading to a more passionate following and a greater investment. And then at the same time, the competition from other sports. Here in the United States, the US has a wide variety of other popular sports such as American football, basketball, and baseball. Those are the three American sports, and they have always emphasized that. And those three sports I always looked at above soccer. Soccer will probably come in a list of the of top sports in America. Soccer will probably come in the fourth, fifth place. Because first of all, it's football, American football. Then you can have a debate between baseball and basketball. But soccer does not make that top three. Soccer is probably on the top five, if anything. But there's not a very popular look at the sport like soccer, football, in here in the United States. And at the same time, the pace and excitement. Some of the US audience, they find that slower pace and lower scoring of soccer is less exciting compared to American sports. And these light ties, especially low scoring ones. So not a lot of people are willing to sit down and watch a game that might be back and forth, and end up 1-0, 0-0, 2-2, and that's it. They don't have that will because they don't have that excitement, and the US audiences have been used to watching games like football, where if you put a touchdown, American football, where if you put a touchdown is 6 points. That is really high number for technically a goal which you will score in soccer. And in baseball, you have sometimes games that end 7-0, games that end 10-2, 10-10. Is such thing that can happen in basketball. Same thing. You have a high scoring games where sometimes they're 110 to 102. So that is another thing that brings on to why the sport doesn't grow. There's a pay to play model, there's a lack of informal play, there's focus on winning, there's cultural factors, the perception of the sport, the competition from other sports, and the pace and excitement that is not something that intrigues the American audience. And then at the end, we have the infrastructure and talent, the fragmented league structure. The US has many different youth leagues, which can create confusion for parents and dilute the overall talent pool. Growing up, I can tell you that yes, there was clubs that had two U10s, two U13s, three U13s, depending on how competitive those teams were. There was a league for this team that's better, and then there's a medium league for these teams that is all right, and then there's a lower league for this team that is not that great. So they technically water it too much, and this also brings another factor of not much competition, and it's just too many leagues, and at the same time it creates confusion between the parents who are the ones bringing their kids to play this sport, and the overall talent just is not able to be seen in one area. Then at the same time, you have what the American sports focus on, which is a very college centric model. The US system relies heavily on college soccer for player development, which is different from an academy focused system in Europe, where clubs develop players from a young age and receive compensation when the player is sold to another club. Out here, you pay to play. In Europe, if you keep doing great, you develop through the academy, they offer you contracts. They give you compensation. They compensate you for being a great player. Over here, they don't. No matter how good you are, you have to pay to play. It has changed in a few years, but it can get better. And it's just hard to be able to produce and open an academy, because apart from you trying to develop an academy and help these players and build a system close to what in Europe is, you need permits will require money, you need insurance will require money. So there's these other monetary fees that you have to look at. when developing an academy out here. So it's not that easy unless you're already in a stated professional team that is coming from abroad or is already in the MLS. It's really hard to be able to open that door for upcoming generations. And it's something that personally I have looked at, and the adventure will be amazing because I had the experience to be able to play in great academies out here. But it's hard to due to all these other fees that come around, even if you're the head organizer or working with others for the sport. And then at the end, we have the limited professional league. While the MLS has grown, it still lags and is behind top European leagues, which affects the ability of US players to develop into top tier professionals and potentially becoming major exports for European clubs. There has only been a few amount of players that are able to go to Europe. And at that point, you don't have to go to Europe. However, that's where the most competitive football is. The youth level is not there yet here. But at the same time, the professional level is not as developed. It can be way better. It can be more technical. It can be more physical. It can be more dynamic. And technicality can change, but you need to have a great youth development. The development starts from the bottom so it can grow to the top. But having the experience to be able to play out here, yes, it's a pay to play system. Yes, they rely a lot on the college system. It has changed a bit where some of these clubs have academies, but it's still pay to play. And the culture of the soccer football not being an American sport at the same times puts the soccer sport football in a dark area. So there's no pride, and for those that have played it, they have tried. Only a few players come out of the United States that are great players, and personally I have been able to play in some great teams. I have also been able to see stories of friends of mine that play at top games and academies and just weren't able to go all the way through because at the end of the day everything requires money in the US soccer youth development. This is all for today. We touched what is the Premier League match day 14. We touched the La Liga match day 19, which was only 2 games, 4 teams that will be playing in the Spanish Super Cup. And we touched two controversial topics. Two controversial topics that, for those that know, they know, is only truthful, is only the truth. Nothing to cite for me or on my site for, or to try to make people look in my way. But it's just truthful things, controversial, yes, but sometimes you gotta make the uncomfortable moves to touch certain topics. And the World Cup tickets have been something that a lot of people have talked about, but the US soccer development is something that, yes, some professionals have talked about it, but I broke it down on why is the way it is and why the US soccer youth development has not moved as forward as it can. And with a nation that has people from all nations, a melting pot, the US national team should be able to have one of the best national teams in the world. And I say that with confidence. Why? Because there's players from all over the world, from all over from different ethnicities, parents from all over the world that come here and have their kids, and kids that play soccer. So they should have, the US national team should have options, abundance of talent. But due to the motto of pay to play, and with the culture not looking at the game with pride, and with the system of relying on college and no enough academy development and the informal play, is a really, really contradicting topic. But these were a few amount of top points to touch. And for those that understand and have been part of the youth, the US soccer youth development, they understand where I'm coming from. And now that they are adults, they understand. And yes, it's moving forward, but it can be much, much better if there was some type of pride and looked at as a sport that can bring so much more for the youth and for the soccer US national team. Thank you. That's it for all. Thank you for those that were with me today. Have a great night. Esto es Pase Ambidiestro. Ambidextrous pass. Fútbol honestamente. Soccer football honestly. Have a great night. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.